I never thought marriage could feel so lonely, especially when you're still sharing the same bed. Darren and I had been together for 6 years. On the surface, we looked solid. Nice house, shared vacations, dinner with friends. But behind closed doors, we were more like polite roommates than partners. The silence between us had grown thick, almost oppressive, and every time I tried to talk about it, he'd brush me off with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Then one night, out of nowhere, he said, "Maybe we need to shake things up a bit." I laughed, thinking he was joking. But he wasn't. He started talking about experiences, how some couples invited others into their relationship to reignite the spark. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I didn't know whether to be angry or heartbroken. Was I not enough for him anymore? Or had I ever been? For days I tried to ignore it, hoping he'd forget. But Darren was persistent, almost eerily calm about it. "It's not cheating if we agree on it," he said. "Think of it as an adventure." I didn't respond. Not with words anyway. But something in me shifted. Doubt. Insecurity. A part of me wondered if this was a test or a trap. Then came the dinner party. It was at his colleague's house, a sleek, modern place in the city. That's where I met Marcus and Darnell. Both were charming in completely different ways. Marcus was smooth, well-spoken, with a calm confidence that put me at ease. Darnell had a boldness about him, the kind that made you feel like you were the only person in the room when he looked at you. Darren noticed my reactions. Of course he did. Later that night, on the drive home, he casually asked, "What did you think of them?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Over the next week, Darren brought them up more often. Jokingly at first, then with a strange kind of seriousness. "They like you," he said one night, as if offering me a gift I hadn't asked for. I could set something up. Just think about it. I started to wonder, was he trying to make me happy, or was he just trying to feel something? Anything. Our marriage wasn't just cracking, it was collapsing under the weight of unspoken resentment and forced smiles. And now this suggestion, this invitation, felt like the final nail. I wish I could say I walked away. That I put my foot down and demanded something real from him, but instead, I said nothing, and silence, I've learned, is its own kind of permission. I thought if I stayed silent long enough, Darren would drop the idea. Instead, he took my silence as consent. 2 days after that dinner party, he handed me my phone with a text message already typed out. It was to Marcus. "Hey, we should all get together sometime soon." All I had to do was press send. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He shrugged, leaning against the kitchen counter like we were discussing weekend plans. "Because you deserve something exciting. Something different. Maybe this will bring us closer." Closer. That word echoed in my head like a cruel joke. I didn't feel closer to him. I felt cornered. Still, I pressed send. Over the next few days, Marcus and Darnell became frequent topics in our home. Darren spoke about them as if they were old friends. He even invited them over for drinks, playing the perfect host while I sat on the edge of every moment, uncertain whether I was a guest in my own life. With them, I felt alive. Seen. Their attention was flattering, intoxicating even, but it confused me more than anything. I didn't know if I was chasing desire, validation, or just trying to feel something after so long feeling nothing. Darnell, especially, had a way of looking at me that made it hard to breathe. Not lustful, intense. Like he could see straight through the layers I'd been hiding behind. Darren noticed that 2.1 evening, after they left, he sat beside me on the couch and took my hand. His eyes were distant, unreadable. "I trust you," he said. "Whatever happens, just don't shut me out." What did that mean? Was he giving me permission? Was he asking for loyalty while encouraging betrayal? My mind raced, trying to make sense of the rules he was rewriting without my consent. I started to feel like a pawn in some twisted game I hadn't agreed to play, but the worst part? A part of me wanted to go along with it, not for him, but for me. I was tired of feeling invisible. Tired of pretending everything was fine. When Marcus invited me for coffee, alone, I accepted. Darren didn't ask where I was going, and I didn't offer. Sitting across from Marcus in that quiet cafe, I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. It felt like stepping into sunlight after living in shadows. But with every laugh, every glance, guilt gnawed at me. I was slipping, and I knew it. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at a woman I barely recognized. I hadn't crossed the line yet, but I was dangerously close, and Darren, he was still watching, waiting. As if he already knew which side I'd choose.
The night the storm rolled in, everything shifted. Thunder growled in the distance as I closed my laptop, grateful for the excuse to unplug. Rain lashed the windows, turning the street into a blur of silver and shadow. Daniel had texted an hour earlier, late night. "Don't wait up." Another investor meeting. Another excuse. The lights flickered, then died as I stood in the kitchen, holding my breath in the dark, the silence louder than the storm. Then a soft buzz on my phone. "Jake, generators on if you need light or company." I stared at the message. Just one sentence. Simple. Innocent. But it hung there, electric that I shouldn't have gone, that I told myself I was being neighborly, just waiting out the blackout. That we were friends. Nothing more. I grabbed a bottle of wine without thinking and stepped out into the rain. His garage glowed with soft, warm light. Candles lined the windowsill, casting golden shadows on the walls. He was sitting on a bench, towel draped over one shoulder, hair still damp from a shower. "You made it," he said, smiling. "Wasn't sure." I shrugged, pretending I hadn't hesitated. Didn't want to drink alone in the dark. He poured 2 glasses without a word. That we talked about everything and nothing. Childhood memories, awful movies, the strangest things we'd ever eaten. The kind of talk that makes hours slip by unnoticed. At some point, I stopped thinking about the rain. I only noticed how close we'd gotten, how our knees almost touched. How his gaze didn't just look at me, it saw me. "You seem lonely," he said softly, after a long pause that I didn't deny it. "I don't mean to be," I whispered. "I just feel invisible lately." His fingers brushed mine. A question. An offering that I didn't pull away. The kiss was slow, hesitant. Not hungry, at first. It felt like crossing a line drawn in fog, the kind you only recognize once your foot lands on the other side. Then the kiss deepened, our bodies closed the space between us, and nothing about it felt accidental anymore. That we moved like people who had waited too long to be touched. His strength, so visible, so undeniable, was suddenly wrapped around me, grounding, consuming. For a while, I forgot who I was supposed to be. I only knew how I felt. When I woke, it was still raining. Candles had burned low. Jake was asleep beside me, his chest rising and falling with quiet rhythm. That I slipped out without waking him. That wide bare feet hit the wet pavement as dawn broke, gray and cold. The house I returned to looked the same as I'd left it, quiet, unchanged, indifferent. Daniel was still asleep, arm flung across the empty side of the bed. That I stood there, drenched, heart pounding, and knew everything had changed, even if no one else did. Guilt, I learned, is a quiet predator. That it didn't roar, it whispered. In the silence over breakfast. In the way I avoided mirrors. In the ache behind my smile when Daniel kissed my cheek like nothing had changed. Because to him, nothing had. He hadn't noticed I'd slipped out at night. Hadn't asked why my pillow smelled like rain the next morning, but I had changed. Irrevocably. That I tried to bury it in routine. Cooked elaborate dinners. Cleaned obsessively. Laughed at his tired jokes like a woman playing her part in a stage play she no longer believed in. He accepted it all gratefully, if distractedly. But I could feel the shift, like a hairline crack in glass. Unseen at first, but widening with each day that I avoided Jake. No texts. No visits. No excuses to drop by. I'd stolen something I didn't have the right to keep, and the only way forward, I thought, was to pretend I hadn't. To resume the version of myself I had before that stormy night. But memory is stubborn. And silence does little to erase what your body remembers. That it was Daniel who broke the illusion. That he found the text. Just one. The message Jake had sent the night of the blackout: "Generators on if you need light or company." He said nothing at first. Just stared at the screen, then at me. I felt something inside me collapse. I opened my mouth to explain, to lie, but no words came. Just a stillness between us, louder than any scream. His voice, when it finally came, was brittle. "Did you cheat on me?" My silence was answer enough. He didn't yell. Didn't cry. Just walked out of the room like someone who'd suddenly realized they'd been living in a stranger's house. That night, he packed a bag. Said he needed space. I didn't stop him. I called Jake once. Met him outside. Told him it was over, that whatever we thought we had wasn't real, just a consequence of timing and absence and need. He didn't argue. Just nodded, jaw clenched, and walked away. The following weeks were quiet, the silence no longer a veil, but a sentence. I moved through the house like a ghost, haunted by choices I could never undo. The weight of them, heavier than any barbell I'd ever lifted, pressed against my chest with every breath. One morning, I stood on the porch, watching the sunrise spill over the street like a promise I no longer trusted. Jake's garage was closed. Daniel's side of the bed remained untouched, and yet, in that stillness, a truth emerged. Not comforting, but necessary. Desire had opened the door. Neglect had pushed me through it. But the fallout, that was mine alone to carry, and it was then I realized, I didn't know a bodybuilder's equipment was so heavy. Turns out, it's nothing compared to the weight of betrayal.